A gunman burst into a home overnight and murdered a 9-year-old girl before blasting two more people less than 48 hours after a council worker was shot dead by mistake in Liverpool's third gun killing in a week. The child, who has not been named, was shot in the chest in a house on Kingsheath Avenue just before 10 p.m. It is the latest tragedy to hit a community already reeling from the murder of 28-year-old Ashley Dale on Sunday in her home in Old Swan, just a mile and a half away from last night's heinous killing. The bright, hardworking graduate, who had just been promoted by her employer, Knowsley Council, was the victim of a case of mistaken identity, police believe. Shockingly, her 16-year-old brother, Lewis, was himself shot dead 7 years before by a gang who mistook him for a rival. Police have not linked the siblings' killings, nor do they believe Ms. Dale's death is linked to the 9-year-old girl's murder. The murders have prompted outrage in Liverpool, with local MP Paula Barker condemning the mindless violence that had left residents absolutely horrified. Mayor of Liverpool Joanne Anderson, addressing the murdered girl's family, said, "This is absolutely devastating. The pain you must feel right now is unimaginable. This is a tragedy that will shake our communities." Liverpool has suffered from gun violence for decades and, chillingly, yesterday's murder happened 15 years to the day since 11-year-old Rhys Jones was shot dead while walking home from football practice in Croxteth. Assistant Chief Constable Jenny Sims called the latest killing a truly shocking incident and abhorrent to the local community. She added, "No parent should ever have to suffer the loss of a child in these dreadful circumstances." The child suffered critical injuries and died in hospital. A man was also shot in the body, while a woman also suffered gunshot wounds to the hand. Both are in hospital being treated. In a separate incident last night, a woman in her 50s, named locally as Karen Dempsey, was stabbed to death in a pub car park in Kirkby, Merseyside after reportedly trying to break up a fight. 2 men have been arrested. In addition, police are still searching for 2 people who fled on electric bikes following the fatal shooting of a man in his early 20s in inner-city Toxteth late on August 16. Just last month, a teenage boy was jailed for the murder of 12-year-old Ava White, who was stabbed to death in Liverpool city centre following a row over a Snapchat video last November. Ms. Dale was the first woman to be murdered with a gun in Liverpool since 22-year-old mother Lucy Hargreaves was shot dead on her sofa by 3 masked men as her children, aged 9 months, 2, and 5, slept upstairs. Her murderer has never been brought to justice. There were 211 firearms offences on Merseyside from April 2021 to March 2022 compared to 140 the year before, a rise of 51%. However, the figures have been distorted by a drop in COVID, with the 227 firearms offences in 2019 to 2020 comparable to this year's figure. Longer term. In July, police said the number of reports of weapons being discharged was at a 20-year low. Officers and sniffer dogs are now hunting down the gunman responsible for last night's shooting and running door-to-door enquiries after they cordoned off a large area around the home in Notty Ash. No arrests have yet been made. One resident, who did not want to be named, said, "It's really disgusting and it will not be tolerated around here. I believe because a child was involved, people will name the culprit and he deserves to be named because he is a coward." Another local described hearing 4 gunshots last night, while a woman, who asked not to be named, said the tragedy made her worry for her own children. "It's devastating. It can't carry on like this," she said. "I have 4 boys, and for this to happen on our own doorstep is shocking. The streets here are always full of kids playing." Helen Alohan, 49, described Kingsheath Avenue as a close-knit community where local children played together on the street. Police said house-to-house, CCTV and forensic enquiries are in the process of being carried out, while a cordon is also in place. Assistant Chief Constable Sims added, "This crime is abhorrent and our communities must come forward and tell us who is responsible. This cowardly individual does not deserve to be walking the streets, and I would urge those who know anything to speak to us and tell us what they know so that we can put the person responsible behind bars where they belong. We are carrying out a number of lines of enquiry as a matter of urgency and would ask for dashcam CCTV or mobile phone footage from anyone who lives, works or was visiting the area of King Heath Avenue last night. Ashley Dale was gunned down outside the property in Old Swan shortly after midnight on Sunday. No arrests have so far been made. Gunmen are thought to have burst through the door of her £70,000 three-bedroom terraced home, where she lived largely on her own, and sprayed bullets inside. Police were called by neighbors reporting the sound of what they thought were gunshots or fireworks, and officers found Miss Dale fatally injured in the back garden. Merseyside police believe the property was purposefully targeted, but Miss Dale was not the intended victim. She was treated at the scene, but died later in hospital. A car was found with flat tires outside, with police saying it was used by her and registered to her family. The vehicle has now been removed to be examined. In a statement, Miss Dale's family said on Monday, "Ashley, our girl, our shining light. Our hearts are broken into a million pieces." Ashley was a hard-working young woman who had her entire life ahead of her. She had just been promoted at her job with Knowsley Council. She had a degree and so many plans for her bright future that had only just begun. Her laugh, smile and energy was infectious in any room. "We can't come to terms with how this would happen to a defenseless woman in her own home. None of this makes sense and our lives will never be the same again. A senseless crime that has torn a family apart. Justice needs to be brought." Her own brother Lewis Dunn was shot dead in 2015, aged just 16, by a gang who mistook him for a rival. Police described him as wholly innocent and said he had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Tributes were paid to Miss Dale yesterday, including from her former colleague Carol Tunstall, who wrote on social media, "So very sad. Ashley worked with us a good few years back. Such a beautiful, lovely young girl." Her alma mater, Liverpool John Moores University, also fondly remembered the 28-year-old when she was a popular student who was hoping for a career in local government. Graham Mitchell, senior lecturer in public health at Liverpool John Moores University, told Mail Online, "We remember Ashley as a keen and popular student who was looking forward to a career in public service. She has recently obtained her registration as an environmental health practitioner and had secured a promotion within Knowsley Council. She obtained her degree despite the personal tragedy of having her brother killed. We're all in shock at the moment." Meanwhile, Merseyside police were called last night to Brambles pub on Cherryfield Drive at around 8:10 p.m, where they found a woman with a stab wound. She was taken to hospital in a serious condition but died. In the same incident, a man in his 30s is also being treated in hospital after being stabbed in his arm and body. Officers have detained a 38-year-old man on suspicion of S18 and affray, while a 32-year-old man later handed himself in and was arrested on suspicion of murder. Detective Inspector Laura Lamping said, "We are currently in the very early stages of an investigation as we seek to establish what has taken place. We believe there was an altercation which started inside the premises and carried on outside. Sadly, a woman suffered a stab wound which proved to be fatal. We currently have 2 people in custody, but inquiries remain ongoing. I would ask anyone who was in the vicinity of Cherryfield Drive who saw or heard anything or has any information which could assist the investigation to contact us as a matter of urgency." Tragically, this is not the first time a young girl has been murdered in Liverpool in recent years. Ava White, 12, was stabbed to death by a 14-year-old boy after a petty row outside Primark on November 25 last year. The boy, who cannot be named for legal reasons, was convicted by a jury of her murder on 24 May this year by a unanimous verdict and sentenced on 11 July at Liverpool Crown Court to life to serve a minimum of 13 years. Violence and sexual offences have been rising in the city as it has become the most dangerous area in Merseyside and one of the worst in the UK. There were 31,372 violent and sexual offences reported during 2021, 21% higher than 2020's figure of 24,782 offences. Police have said they are aware that, in Liverpool, there is sometimes a culture of not grassing to officers.